I watched every media day interview for UFC 315 to try to find some betting leans. Let's get into my discoveries. So Jack Della Maddalena interviewed this guy in MMA fighting, and this was a week before media day, but basically, here's the clip.
For sure, I think I can stop the takedown, you know. I think I'm comfortable on my back, and I think that sometimes...
Comfortable on his back! I don't like that one bit. Belal gets the takedown and JDM's comfortable off his back. He's going to be on his back for the entire round. So once again, here in this clip, he is asked about the takedowns. This is not fight day. This is a week prior to the fights. And here's what JDM had to say again in a different interview.
Yeah, I've obviously first line of defense, stopping the takedown. I believe I can do that. I think the more I can stop that initial takedown, it's going to make it easier for me. But I feel like I'm ready to go off my back. I believe I'll be the one attacking.
This guy, please JDM, if you're on your back, try to get up. Don't attack off your back. JDM is plus 2,200 to win by submission. At this point, I'm willing to sprinkle it. This guy keeps saying he has something sneaky for Belal. He's good fighting off his back. He's got something coming for Belal if he wants to shoot takedowns. He recently tapped out Craig Jones and made him go to sleep in a sparring video. I'm very scared for JDM, and my pick, which is JDM, I might switch it to Belal because these interviews make me think he's just going to stay on his back for 5 rounds and Belal's just going to crush him. Don't get into too much detail with the actual fight day interview. The only thing I wanted to discuss was Jack Della Maddalena predicted a round 3 KO. So, you're welcome. In this interview, which also took place a week before fight week, Belal was asked how he can beat JDM. Here's what he had to say.
For me, right, I could beat him in many different ways. I could outstrike him if I want to. I could out-kickbox him if I want to. Or I could out-wrestle him if I want to. I know I have all these different paths to victory. For him...
Alright, so Belal's saying all week, basically, that he can go out there and strike with JDM. Guess what? I think Belal's going to get knocked out if he tries to strike with JDM. I'm getting conflicting answers here. I'm not really sure what to think. So on one hand, JDM says he's good off his back and he has some submissions for Belal if he wants. And then on the other hand, Belal says, "Oh, I'm not even going to try to shoot takedowns. I'm going to try to test out my Canelo hands on JDM." So based on these interviews so far, I'm getting mixed feelings. So, I had to go to UFC Embedded as well. We're not just dissecting fight interviews. We're trying to get the real scoop. We're trying to figure out what's going on inside these fighters' heads. And here's how Belal says he'll finish the fight.
Take another guy that they can say outbox me. Then I'm going to go out there, show the Canelo hands, and show the world why I'm the best. We finish him in 3.
So Belal's predicting the fight to end in the first 3 rounds. Maddalena is predicting a round 3 KO. So if you're a betting man, hey, why not just bet the under 4.5? Both guys think the fight will end in round 3. Why not just full send a round 3 fight will end bet? I mean, that's when they're both predicting it will end. Then without going into too much detail about the fight day interview, Belal did say that he plans on KOing JDM. So JDM says he's going to KO Belal in round 3. Belal says he's going to KO JDM in general in the first 3 rounds. So they are selling the fight to an extent. I'm more interested now than I was before I did all these deep dives. So they're doing something right. So let's just go fight by fight interview. Amin Zahabi got interviewed, and I'll just give you the quick breakdown without boring you with the whole video. He says that GSP is going to be in his corner. GSP told him not to over-respect Aldo like GSP did against Matt Hughes in their first fight. Zahabi understands that a finish is what is needed to gain hype in this sport, and Zahabi had good recall when asked about the Aldo-Yan fight. He was giving like specific fight details round by round for that fight. So what I get from this interview is Zahabi he's there mentally. His IQ is on point. His brother is Firas Zahabi, who's one of the best MMA coaches in the game. So I'm pretty sure him and Firas Zahabi are cooking something to defeat Jose Aldo. All right, Amin Zahabi is also saying that he wants to try to find a finish against Jose Aldo, but this is very important for what's next. What's next is the Jose Aldo fight day interview. So basically in this one, he complains about being tired, or he just looks very tired overall because he had a long flight in from Brazil going to Montreal. I'm pretty sure the layover must have made him very tired. He's going to probably be tired all fight week, just getting adjusted to the time zone. He's really focused this camp, and he's planning on bringing the fight to Zahabi. That was a quote. He's bringing the fight to Zahabi. Zahabi is a pretty good counter striker. So if Aldo is going to pressure forward and bring the fight to him, especially after such a snooze fest against Mario Batista, if I'm connecting the dots here, Aldo said he's going to move forward a lot. Zahabi is a good counter striker. Zahabi knows that a KO is needed to make a name for himself in this sport. Zahabi's star is rising while Aldo is kind of middling. I'm thinking that from these interviews, Zahabi KO, that might be a worthy bet. If Aldo is going to truly do what he says and move forward, Zahabi is going to clip this man. Zahabi has great KO power. Only guy to KO a Richie-Long in the UFC. You know, I think Zahabi has a chance to finish this thing based on these interviews. We go to the co-main event. It was kind of boring interviews. Not really much to take from the Manon, Fiorot, and Shevchenko interviews. But basically, Fiorot says that she wants to defend the belt in France. She's okay with a Weili super fight. She's more prepared than ever. And then when asked for an exact prediction, she is predicting a round 3 finish. So for any Manon Fiorot supporters or bettors, if you want to bet Manon Fiorot by round 3 KO, I mean, that is exactly what she thinks will happen. So Jillian Robertson last week predicted round 2 KO. Kang Lee predicted a sub for himself. Sometimes you gotta listen to these fighter predictions because sometimes they're very on point and they can produce a lot of profit. So Fiorot says round 3 KO. Let's keep that in mind. And the champ, Valentina Shevchenko, I watched the whole thing. She says she's very prepared. She's feeling loads of energy. She looks very energetic as well. The age gap between her and Fiorot is only like 2 years. It's not like it's 38 versus 28. It's you know, they're both not spring chickens, so there's that to think about. And she thinks that she will break Manon Fiorot by outplaying her game plan. So over the course of 5 rounds, Shevchenko just thinks she'll eventually break Manon. She's not predicting an exact finish. So Shevchenko supporters, you might just want to bet Shevchenko moneyline straight up. She is looking very energetic. She seems uppity. You know, it looks like she's ready to defend the belt again. And as an underdog for the 3rd time in her UFC career, might be time to take the stab on Shevchenko. Then we move over to Charles Radtke. He's fighting Mike Malott. And basically in this interview, he says that he's been training with Juliana Pena and Belal, which is something I actually was not made aware about. So he's training with the 2 current champs that are doing champ stuff. So I'm sure that's rubbing off on Radtke positively. It's the most stable he's ever felt in life. He just bought a house in Chicago, so that's cool. Says his ground game is going to surprise Malott. You know, a lot, no pun intended, a lot of people predicting Malott to win think that he's going to utilize his wrestling and grappling to a certain extent. But Charles Radtke says don't sleep on his grappling. You know, I think he's also a black belt, if not a brown belt, very close to a black belt. And he thinks that he will break Malott mentally. I kind of agree with Charles Radtke. He has a lot of conviction in what he's talking about. He's playing the heel. It's pretty cool to see. So yeah, Buffalo. He thinks he's going to break Radtke, maybe bet Charles Radtke KO plus 400. It's a little sneaky. And of course, Mike Malott's interview. There's not really a lot to say with most of these Canadian fighters because, you know, people from Canada, they're too nice. And when it comes to promoting fights, usually they're still too nice. So he says he's going to be the Matador and Charles Radtke's going to be the Bull. That's an interesting theory. So you're just going to be on the back foot the whole fight? As a minus 200 favorite, that's not something I want to hear. You know, I have Charles Radtke picked. So he says he's feeling dialed. This is his best training camp ever. So a lot of people roasted the Trevin Giles fight because Mike Malott went out there and, you know, he didn't really show any urgency to finish the fight. But then Mike Malott says that he thought that made his game even better. It showed a different shade of Mike Malott. It made his game better. It shows that he's well-rounded. It shows he doesn't need to find a finish to win. I think Mr. Malott, I think you're confused, buddy. I think you're supposed to finish Trevin Giles. I don't think decisioning Trevin Giles by getting 58 significant strikes shows a new layer to your game. It just shows me that you're too gun-shy sometimes, and maybe Neil Magny took your soul. So I wouldn't support a Mike Malott bet this week. It is a pretty bettable line, but based on what he's saying, I don't know. I think he's just sipping that delusional Kool-Aid, and I think Charles Radtke is going to show him something he's not ready for. Jessica Andrade is taking on Jasmine Vicious, and Jessica Andrade, she's one finish away from tying the female all-time UFC record for most women finishes, tied with Jillian Robertson and Amanda Nunes. So, if she were to go out there and finish Vicious, she would tie the record. So she says that she expects Jasmine to stand for the first round. She's prepared for the grappling. She slept on a floor for the majority of the camp because her mattress, because her bed frame didn't come in the mail, so she was sleeping on the floor. So she's hungry, all right? Jessica Andrade, plus 250, she's hungry, all right? With the finish, like I said, she'll tie Nunes and Robertson, and she says the prediction for the fight is she's chasing a KO against Jasmine, but she has a lot of ways to win the fight in her arsenal. So Jessica Andrade to win by finish, plus 450. Might be worth a sprinkle. And then based on what Jasmine says, I'm kind of leaning in that direction now too. So Jasmine, as a minus 300 favorite, this is not the interview I wanted to hear. So first of all, she goes, she's not going to be desperate and she's not going to try to force the action. Well, guess what? You're the grappler in this fight. You kind of need to force the action. So if you're going to stand there with Jessica, you're going to probably get clipped and knocked out. She says she would not be surprised to throw hands with Andrade. She's willing to throw hands with her. You know, she had a recent camp in Thailand. Guess who else had a recent camp in Thailand and fought a power puncher? Damon Blackshear. Damon Blackshear thought his striking was good enough to stay on the feet with Montel Jackson. He got KO'd in 10 seconds. So if Jesuda Vicious thinks that she like elevated her game because she was in Thailand for this camp, I got news for you, Jasmine. You're going to get clipped by Jessica Andrade. Also, another thing I didn't like is they asked her if she could possibly be the replacement in the co-main if one of the fighters drops out, and she does not want to make championship weight. She's not willing to cut the extra half pound in order to be the potential backup. So number one, I'm not getting like hunger from Jasmine. Number two, it sounds like she's willing to stand with Jessica, which is not good for Jasmine bettors. And number three, she's not going to be desperate and not going to force the action, so there's a chance she just stands there and gets clipped by Andrade. This fight interview is making me a little nervous. And then honestly, there wasn't really other fight interviews that were really worth watching. You know, I thought the Benoit Saint Denis interview, that would be a good one, but I watched it and not much to say. He just wants to be proud of the performance he puts on in the cage. So Saint Denis by finish, you know, everyone was already on that, so nothing really to take from there. Natalia Silva, she says that she is willing to make championship weight to fill in for the co-main, so I did like that. That's the only thing I could really take from that interview. And then Alexa Grasso, you don't see it. Oh, yep, Alexa Grasso right here. The most vanilla interview I've ever seen in my life. You know, all happy-go-lucky. As you can see, you know, it's a 6-minute interview. Natalia Silva is 7 minutes. They didn't really have much to ask them. Saint Denis, it was a little longer because they asked him about Gamrot, but, you know, maybe trying to stir beef where there's not beef. Nothing really to take from Silva, Grasso, or Saint Denis, other than maybe Silva, you know, maybe put her as a parlay piece. She seems very confident, and Grasso, you know, just all happy-go-lucky. I'm not really liking that, so I don't know. Not much to take from that. Also, Ian Gary did an interview. Watched half of that. What? We're going to get a betting lean from watching Ian Gary on UFC 315? I don't think so. Thank you for getting to the end of another episode of Finch Chats. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know in the comments. Did I miss anything? Are there fighters saying things that I don't know about? Well, let me know down below. Leave a like and have a great rest of your day, you said.